Marvel Live from New York Comic Con 2014, brought to you by Marvel Contest of Champions. I'm Lorraine Sink, host and writer of Marvel's The Watcher, and I'm joined by this guy.
Yeah, I'm Ben Morse, editor of Marvel.com. We've got another treat now. Yesterday, we got to speak with a lot of folks who are here for the Marvel 75th anniversary signing, and Kurt Busiek, not here specifically for the Marvel 75th anniversary signing, here for a lot of stuff, working a lot in comics, but honestly, one of the best writers at Marvel in history, for my money.
Thank you very much.
Your Marvel series was formative for me, and then after I got out of comics, your Avengers drew me back in. So it's really cool to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Not a question, just a comment, just a statement, putting it out there.
Okay.
Ben already told me this as well. He was very, very excited that he was going to get to meet you and talk with you today.
That's a common reaction.
Yeah.
Good. And you guys, you can also tweet along with us, just hashtag MarvelNYCC, and we'll answer them here on this magical box, which is called a computer.
So one of the things obviously we've been doing this year is celebrating the 75th anniversary of Marvel, and you're a big part of Marvel in various eras. When did you first professionally work at Marvel, and what's been kind of your flow through the years?
I broke in at Marvel in 1982. Mm-hmm. I had, at that point, I'd written one script for DC Comics, and I noticed that there was supposed to be a new writer on Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah.
But every month it was a single-issue fill-in story by
Yeah.
the editor, and
Yeah.
I thought, maybe the new guy isn't getting his work done. So I wrote up a pitch for a one-issue story and sent it in to the editor with a note saying that I'd already been working professionally for DC. And he invited me to flesh it out into a script, and ended up buying the script, and I ended up writing the book for a year.
Ah, okay.
So that was my entry into Marvel. After that, I worked for a year or so as the assistant editor on Marvel Age magazine, which was the in-house fan magazine at the time. And I was a sales manager in the direct sales department. One of the guys who worked on Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1 promotions, things like that. And then in 1990, I went full-time freelance and did various, fill-ins and things here and there, but that kind of built up to doing Marvels in 1993 and 94.
Where did the idea for Marvels come from? Because it was really unlike anything Marvel in particular had done at the time. Because I know DC has a lot of their kind of perennial stories they can always put out, but for me, Marvels was the first one that you could point a new reader to and kind of say, this is what the Marvel Universe is.
It kind of happened, on a corporate end, I guess it kind of happened by accident.
Right.
It's not like Marvel was looking for that kind of project. If they were, there'd have been more of them.
Yeah.
But I had worked with Alex Ross. When I'd been in the sales department, I also edited a short-lived series called Open Space, which was science fiction stories written by professional science fiction writers and drawn by comics artists. And I hired Alex to do his first Marvel assignment for that. And he, after that, his story was in the first issue we didn't publish because it got canceled. So he went back to advertising for a while.
Right.
But when he came back, decided I want to get back into comic books, he contacted me because I'd hired him and paid him even if I hadn't published him. By then I was a full-time freelance writer. He had all of these paintings for, he had this idea for a project he wanted to do called Marvel. And the idea was it would be painted stories of superheroes, and he'd do all the ones he liked the best, and other people would do other ones. And I suggested that this maybe would not be an easy sell because, hi, I'm a complete newcomer. I'd like you to create a new magazine for me, and I won't do all of it.
Yeah.
So I suggested, let's turn it into a story that's about all the stuff that you want to do. And since one of the characters he wanted, was on his list was the original Human Torch, and one was Gwen Stacy, it was clearly going to be set in the past.
Right.
And we went back and forth with it and came up with this rough storyline, pitched it to Marvel, and they made suggestions and requests, and slowly it became what Marvel's became. But it didn't, none of us really expected it to be a big hit when we were working on it. It was just going to be an interesting project to do. So I think it kind of took everybody by surprise.
How soon did you know it was a hit, and how soon did you know this was an important story you were telling, not just another, we're doing a story?
Well, I was working on the 4th issue, so was Alex, and that was when we were starting to go to conventions the summer before the first issue came out. and the president of the company was hand selling it. You know,
Oh,
he was at the convention booth stopping people going, look at this artwork, you got to look at this. This is coming up in November. And I'm going, you know, if the president of the company's into it, something's going on. And the reaction of the fans to the art, you know, it was starting to build a little buzz. We didn't really know how to describe it. It wasn't until the book was already out that we figured out what it was about. But when it did come out, you know, the reaction just started flooding in. I was doing a signing at a friend's comic book store in Maryland, and staying at his house, and he was on the internet. And so he said, hey, they're talking about your book on the internet. So I got to see from the first day what kind of reaction we were getting, and it was just hugely positive.
Yeah.
So that was where I knew, okay, this isn't just a little side series that we thought it was.
In an industry where fandom pretty much there's a negative side for everything. I don't think I've heard anyone ever say anything negative about Marvels.
There was one guy.
And I was going to say, so what have people
said?
said?
Since you've given me the setup, there was one professional writer who said that that Marvel's was just plagiarizing old stories, and he gets away with it because Marvel owns that stuff. And my reaction was, if Marvel owns that stuff, it's not plagiarism.
Yeah,
it's using the
plagiarism.
existing history.
Yeah.
And also, it wasn't, we weren't just retelling the stories.
Oh no, not at all.
But no, we got very. I mean, back then the Comics Journal was it was the magazine that did the serious scholarly reviews, and they had a Marvel's roundtable. I think in part because the editor was aware that the guy who was pitching a Marvel's review liked it, and he wanted to make sure that he had countervailing opinions, people who didn't like it. But the roundtable pretty much all seemed to like it. The worst thing they said about Marvels in the Comics Journal was that it was no death of a salesman.
No.
And I think, if I'm missing that mark,
oh well, maybe next time.
I'm okay with it.
So we have comments and questions coming in. Our own Mark Strom is tweeting at us, and he said, I never understood why the Avengers were cool until Kurt Busiek's run, and he's jealous that we're here with him
we're
now.
interviewing him.
That's a common reaction.
Yeah. I like that you've kept your humility.
Yes.
I think that's key to succeeding in this business.
Yes, modesty, dignity, quiet modesty.
And Sophia would like to know, who's been with us all day, thank you, Sophia, who has been your favorite superhero as a child, and has it changed your perspective about superheroes after starting with writing stories?
When I was first starting to read comics, I didn't start reading comics regularly till I was 14 years old. So around the time back then that other kids were quitting comics, that's when I started.
Jumping in.
The earliest favorite superheroes I had were Daredevil and the X-Men.
Oh, wow.
But pretty soon thereafter, my favorite character, and he's my favorite character today, is Hawkeye.
Oh, wow.
I just think what I like about Hawkeye is he's kind of a stumble bum who made mistakes and figured out how to turn his life around. And he doesn't have any superpowers. He's just got skill. And he's got to focus so hard, so laser-like on developing and maintaining that skill that he can fight shoulder to shoulder with gods.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have a whole lot of energy left over to be nice.
Yeah.
So he's always, in your face, grumbling out loud, letting off steam. But no matter what team he's on, it's the best team there ever was, and the others are all a bunch of bums. He's got this real professional athlete kind of attitude of he's psyching himself up. If he's on the Avengers, everyone else is a bunch of jerks.
Yeah.
The Avengers are, he goes over to the Defenders, and the Avengers are nobody.
yeah.
Well, the Defenders are the guys. I just love that.
Yeah.
I love. He's so incredibly human.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the way you wrote him when he was jumping from Avengers to Thunderbolts. In Avengers, he's always questioning why are the Thunderbolts getting, recognition, they're crooks, and then the minute he goes over there, he's like, these guys deserve a chance.
Right. I deliberately did that when the Thunderbolts fought the Avengers.
Yep.
Hawkeye was trash talking the Avengers because he's gonna talk up his team and he's gonna trash talk all the others.
Also, to this day, for some reason, remember him dissing Squadron Supreme in your run. That always stuck out to me. He always got Noxon on them during that arc. That was great.
He just, he's like, imagine if Derek Jeter was a loudmouth Yankee fan at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
That's Hawkeye.
That's amazing.
We have another question from the internet. Wade Pinder would like to know, what are your thoughts on adding new characters to the Avengers lineup?
We did it all the time. I mean, the Avengers started out with 5 guys, and the first one they added was Captain America.
Worked out.
And by the time I got there, there'd been, I don't know, 85 different characters over the years, maybe less than that. But I added a few, and I don't know, you'd have to be on the Avengers for a very, very short time if to be a writer who didn't add a character.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I can't really comment on, say, the characters that Jonathan Hickman has added because I'm behind on everything. I haven't read the books.
Right.
But it's just tradition. I mean, when we started on the Avengers, there were 2 questions we were given. Who do you want to add to the team? And Bob Harris, the editor-in-chief at the time, challenged us to create some new characters who could become Avengers, because that's Avengers tradition.
Well, we're just about to be out of time, but tell everybody at home where they can find you on the internet, on the Twitters.
Well, on the Twitter, I'm at Kurt Busiek.
No.
Very complicated. I have a web page that's Busiek.com. Again, very complicated. I'm at the official Kurt Busiek page on Facebook.
Nice.
And I'm on, just to throw things, on Tumblr. My Tumblr feed is called Fitz Silence, Fitz Golden.
Okay.
But and if you're here at the con after this, I'll be signing at the Image booth at 6.
There you go.
And I don't know, was there anything more I should have
think you
mentioned?
covered
that
it pretty
was
well.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect. You guys stick
Yeah.
around for more Marvel Live coming up very, very soon. And we are brought to you by Marvel Contest of Champions.
Thanks so much.
They came to us and said,